Welcome to the In Our Humble Opinion podcast, the show where no topic is off limits. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a wide variety of interesting topics, sports, gaming, the paranormal, and everything in between. All opinions given are respectfully and humbly our own. Now here's your hosts, Jacob Cook and Brantley Weatherford.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of In Our Humble Opinion. My name is Jacob Cook, and I'm co-hosting, as always, with my best friend, Brantley Weatherford. Brantley, how are you today?
I am good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just making sure. I'd hit a button on my computer. I didn't know if it was working or not. It usually pops up. But I'm good, Jacob. I'm here. Ready for a powerful message. Hallelujah. It is a Saturday. There's some big games tonight. By the time y'all hear this, those games will be over. But yeah, I'm doing good.
I thought you were doing the, are you hearing? Are you hearing?
Are you hearing?
But anyway, digress. Not even a minute in, we're already into the Bob Tilton. Doing great. All right. But yes, as Brantley said, there are some massive college football games going on tonight. Or I guess just the one. But to me, Auburn and Cal are just as important. So hopefully both of our teams are 2-0 tomorrow by the time you're hearing this. But I guess we will have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you there, Jacob. Obviously, the Alabama-Texas game is huge. But for me, I am looking forward to that game a lot. But I'm with you. I am really hoping for Auburn to get a statement win. And when I say a statement, I know it's California. And they're not ranked, as far as I know. But I want Auburn to go in there and dominate. And to me, that's a statement win. So
I've been talking to some of the fans this week about this game with Auburn. And it's surprising to me that there are quite a few people that are like, oh, it's just Cal. I'm like, yeah, it's Cal. Yeah, I know they're not great. I know they didn't do very much last season. But this is an Auburn team that is, like I mentioned in our episode a few weeks ago, that's just devoid of confidence right now. I can easily see them losing this game if things don't, they don't get off to a good start, for example. So yeah. I think it's just critical that they not only go in there and perform in that first quarter specifically, but that they maintain that level of performance that they had last week against UMass throughout the entire game, or they might not win.
Yeah, I agree. Sure, it's just Cal, but we're just Auburn. They're probably looking at us like, there's Auburn. They were 5-7 last year.
Oh, exactly. So, that's a great point.
And on top of that, it's a late game. I mean, for them, that's their normal time. But on the Auburn, the game starts at 9:30. So 7:30 on the East or West Coast, 9:30 here. So it's a later game than usual for us, and I think it's a critical game. We really need to go in there and get a statement win, or just a win in general. A win, I believe, I'm with you, Jacob, will boost the confidence even more and prepare us for the next few weeks because we got an onslaught coming.
Yeah, and then the schedule gets really brutal for both Auburn and Alabama. So
yeah,
it's I think it's super important for both teams to get these wins, and Alabama in particular is definitely going to be. We'll know what they are by the end of this game.
Yeah, I'm hoping they have a statement win as well. Last week all these SEC teams that had their big games got absolutely dominated. So it's time for Alabama, who's seen as one of the big boys of the SEC, to step up and say, hey, we're still here. So.
Yeah, for sure. And we do have a dedicated topic for this episode. We're going to be talking about our experiences so far with Starfield, because this is one of the biggest blockbuster gaming titles this year. But before we jump into that, Brant, I'd like to continue the discussion real quick with college football, because I don't know if you saw it this week, or really if you're aware of this at all, but I'm a big fan of the Pat McAfee show. I've been following him now for a couple years. He did a series last year, I think the year before, during the NFL season, where he would have Aaron Rodgers come on every week and talk about the game that he had that previous Sunday or Monday, whenever it was. And they started calling it Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. So every Tuesday they'd have Aaron Rodgers come on and he'd talk about, the game. It was really cool. It was cool, kind of behind the scenes access that you normally wouldn't get on any other sports show. Well, yesterday they were hosting the show live in Tuscaloosa, right in front of Denny Chimes. It was a really cool set. And they had Coach Saban come on for one of the segments, and they announced that they're doing Nick Saban Thursdays. So every Thursday, Nick Saban's going to appear on the Pat McAfee show and give his thoughts on what happened the previous Saturday and what to expect in the upcoming Saturday. So this next Thursday, we should be able to hear from Nick Saban himself in a kind of relaxed environment. The Pat McAfee show isn't super serious. It's just sort of like a laid back, really fun sporting environment. So we'll get to hear his thoughts on that game, which will be pretty cool, I must say. I was pretty excited when they made that announcement.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I apologize if y'all hear music in the background. There is an ice cream truck going around the neighborhood.
Oh,
and I can hear it through my headphones. So if y'all hear that on the podcast, they're selling ice cream. Mm. But yeah, that's very exciting. Was Aaron Rodgers there on Tuesday?
They weren't live. They were in their normal studio on Tuesday. But yeah, he made an appearance. He zoomed in during the show and announced that they were continuing Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays.
I believe he played for Cal.
Yeah, he did.
That's interesting right there.
Yep, but just for our audience members, maybe even yourself, Brant, if y'all want to hear Coach Saban's thoughts, check out the Pat McAfee show on Thursday.
I will try. What time does it come on?
It's during our work day, but they normally post. In fact, they always post that segment after the fact. Oh. So it'll probably be posted around like 3:30 or 4 o'clock Central, and you can find it on YouTube.
Check it out. I'll check it out. I'd like to see that Charizard card he has, so I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's on his set. You'll see it. It's really cool. But enough about the college football scene around the country. I'm sure we'll have much more to say about that in the weeks to come. But we wanted to give our thoughts, as I mentioned before, on Starfield.
Or just the year of gaming in general. But yes, Starfield is a big topic.
Yeah, for sure. And as it relates to the entire game, because we're on Game of the Year watch. I mean, we're in September. So,
yep.
And really all the big titles that we're aware of have been released. And Super Mario Wonder isn't out yet.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah.
I don't think that one would contend, given the fact that I think if any Nintendo title was represented, which I'm no doubt it will be, but Tears of the Kingdom is definitely the one that's going to be nominated, I think, over those other titles. But Brantley, I'll give the floor to you with this first, and then I'll just sort of jump in after the fact, but kind of highlight your experience for us so far.
Well, let's see. About a week ago, about a week ago, early release happened for Starfield.
Yes.
And, I was thinking to myself, I'll just wait and get my copy. I'll pick it up next week on, I believe it came out on a Wednesday. Last Wednesday?
Yeah, it did. This past Wednesday.
I'll just wait till then. But then, Jacob, I logged on to Xbox to play Armored Core, which we'll touch on. And I saw you had been playing it. Some other people have been playing it. And I was like, I got to play it. So I bought it. I downloaded it. I played about 20 minutes before I went to Auburn this past weekend to hang out with Jake the Snake. Get it, not the Snake. And I watched you play it, Jacob. And when I got back, I could do nothing but play the game. And it is what I have been wanting from a Bethesda title for a long time. I have been wanting a Skyrim type title like Skyrim, obviously. Quest line, the stuff you can explore, set in space. The closest thing I've seen to that for me, well, there hadn't really been anything close to it for me. Now, I've heard that Mass Effect is something that's like that, but it doesn't have that Bethesda feel to it that I enjoy. And no, I'm not talking about the glitches and all the funny stuff that happens. I'll touch on that in a second. Uh, Fallout 4, it was a great game. I platinumed it. I loved it. But you know my complaints about it, Jacob. I was disappointed in some of the choices they made in terms of quest option. I mean,
Mhm.
they had multiple quest lines for factions, but none of them to me were just extremely, extremely great. They were good, and the DLC also was good, but none of them just blew my socks off. Uh, but I enjoyed Fallout 4. I just wish there was more to it than what it had. It had a ton. I just wish it was more in depth in terms of what you could do per se.
Really, what you could find.
Yeah, like I loved it, and this is a Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild thing too. I love exploring stuff in all those games. And in Fallout and Skyrim, you would explore and you would find like a unique legendary that had something really cool to it. And
Yeah,
in Fallout 4, you would find a name legendary, and but it would just be a different name to it. It's the same weapon, and it had a perk you can find on just a random legendary enemy. And to me, that I know it's a silly complaint, but it kind of took away like, oh, I have this unique item that I got doing this.
well, I think for me, more so than it does relate to the items that you would find in the game, but when you beat the game and you had all the factions, well, you had to have done all that before you beat the game.
Yeah,
But once you had everything completed and I guess there was some faction quest post story, but suffice it to say that whenever everything was completed as far as like main narrative content and then you did all the faction content, there really wasn't too much to do outside of hunting for legendary enemies and trying to get really good drops. But in my experience with that, as it relates to Fallout 4, was that I got really, really bad drops 95% of the time. I'm talking, like instigating rolling pin or
Oh,
a,
uh,
a pull cue that had freezing on it or something stupid.
anti-ghoul radiation gun.
Yeah, stuff that just doesn't make sense. And then you go on YouTube, and of course, people are going to post the highlights and cherry pick things, but they would get the explosive minigun or something. And I'm just like, man, I never get anything like that. It's just so annoying. Or I saw people, for example, there was one situation where I took down, like, I was almost level 60. Like, most characters don't really get up to that level, but this character I've had since the beginning of the game. And I killed a legendary, like, chameleon deathclaw, one of the most difficult enemies in the game.
Yep.
And I got some kind of horrible brass knuckle drop. It was just garbage. And then I saw a video like a week later on YouTube where somebody killed a ghoul that was legendary. It wasn't even a glowing one. It was like a Ravager or something. And that's when they got the explosive minigun. I was just, I was like, are you kidding me?
And you see, I don't mind having that, but I wish they would have put more unique items in the game. I mean, there's the silent or the deliverer. Was it
Oh, yeah.
deliverer?
Yeah.
That was unique. I mean, yeah, it used the same ammo that the normal 9mm used. I get that, but it was unique. It was a
it was a
Makarov.
completely different and unique model. And it had one of the fastest fire rates. It was much faster than the normal 10mm. It was so good.
Yeah, and then you had oh, what was it called? The jagged tooth or fang tooth, like
Oh,
machete.
it's like Kremith's tooth or something like that.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
was that like knife machete thing.
So there were a few, but most of them they were not unique. They were just a different name with the same legendary perk you can find in the wild. Depending on how lucky you got. Now the DLC did kind of fix that. Another problem I had was the
Yeah,
armor. And I know we're supposed to be talking about Starfield, but I'm just briefly hitting on this.
yeah,
The
we're laying
armor in
down
the
the
game
foundation.
was very, to me, I'll just say it was lame. It wasn't until Far Harbor that they introduced armor, the marine armor, that I'm like, oh, this is awesome. But other than that
Yeah,
armor, I wasn't too impressed. That being said, I wanted that expanded upon like Skyrim in space. And with Starfield, so far I have received that. I mean, I have found actual legendaries, uniques that have, and not to give too many spoilers with, but they have like three different three different perks on them at
Hmm.
once, and have certain like camos on them. And
Yeah.
it's not like Call of Duty camos, and they're awesome. I love using them. That's just one thing. The quest lines so far that I have done, in terms of choice, there's a whole lot more choice than four options like you had in Fallout 4. It feels like a Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 3 in terms of choices that you can make. And dialogue, I love that. The storytelling is there. The exploration has been there. Jacob, I did one quest line last week. I told you about it. I won't spoil it for anybody, but it was insane. I was like, this is incredible. And that took me like, I don't know how many, probably 6 hours to do the whole quest line. Now, part of that was because I was getting dogged in fights, and I had to had to retry them over and over again. But I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it, and it wasn't all bloodshed. Like go here and kill all these people. Like there were sneaking missions. There were uh, persuasion missions, stuff like that. And the world building to me is awesome. So I think Starfield so far has for me has lived up to my expectation that I was hoping it would. It has been Skyrim in space with guns like Fallout 4. The gunplay is very good uh, to me,
Yeah.
and
I agree.
the amount of variety, like the different amounts of ships, the different amount of armor, there's so many different weapon types. I keep finding new weapons. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And one issue with Fallout 4 was there was like 10, 15 total different weapons. And after you found them all, you're like, oh, okay. So I've had a blast with the game. I'm only about 20 hours in, and I've only done 2 story missions, but the side quests have kept me busy for this whole week, and I love it.
Yeah, I think for any Bethesda title, the main story is important, but anybody who's played Skyrim will tell you that ultimately what gives a game like these Western RPGs that they make its legs is the side content. And so far for me, it's been A plus plus.
Yeah, in Skyrim, I will admit it. The main story to me is just it's there. I don't really.
Yeah,
It's okay.
nobody has revered the game as much as it has been revered because of the main story. I think I've seen players on Reddit, Brant, who have had like thousands of hours logged in the game, and they said, I don't think I've ever actually beaten the story.
Yeah,
And I think I've only done it maybe twice. I know I've done it once, but I did do it twice so I could get the platinum. But yeah, it's not terrible, but it's just nowhere near as memorable as the side content.
which is crazy because people get dogged for having a bad main story, and I think
Yeah,
Skyrim did. But then you see and this is before DLC.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it was.
the side stuff. I mean, you got the Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, the Empire Stormcloak quest line. That's just a few. There's so much more out there, and then there's just many side quests from that have their own little stories. There's so much adventure and stuff to do, exploring to do. It's awesome. Fallout 4, in my opinion, lacked that. Starfield so far has brought that back, and I can't get enough of it, Jacob. I mean, I want to play it right now, right now. It's so
Yeah,
fun.
I'll get into my opinion a little bit, but I did do an entire impressions video on my YouTube channel. So if you want to hear
You
like
did.
my initial thoughts on the game, that's available for you. I will say though, I think it's a bit ironic in the sense because for those of you who are familiar with, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Obsidian was the one who developed New Vegas, and for the longest time, even after Fallout 4 came out, like that was considered the better of the three.
Yeah,
And I don't necessarily disagree. I think it was an amazing experience and a great game in its own right. But then Obsidian came out with what was it?
Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds. Thank you. And that was supposed to be like their next big, continuation from New Vegas.
Yeah,
And we played it, and it was fine. But I mean, it after like 15 hours, I was kind of spent. I didn't really want to play any more of it. It didn't hook me, and it wasn't as engaging as everybody hoped it would be. And I don't think I'm the only one who felt that way.
You didn't. I agree with that.
And then Bethesda comes out several years later with Starfield. And it seems like Bethesda now has the upper hand when it comes to exploration in space. I don't think they have a rivalry or anything, but to me, it's kind of funny as a consumer to look at that situation and say, well, you may have done better with Fallout Obsidian, but I think as far as space exploration, Bethesda's Starfield is the only game I want to play right now.
Yeah, it was interesting because when that game was announced, we were pumped.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was very exciting.
And I will say, like you, for the first 15 to 20 hours, I was having a blast, but it got to a point to where I felt like I had seen everything already. Like, the side quests weren't engaging me.
Yeah.
The main story was just there, and the gunplay was fine, but like the enemies were all almost exactly the same. It felt like.
Yeah, it feels like in Starfield in particular. Now, I may backtrack on this as I experience more of the game, but so far, as far as biodiversity on different planets and moons is concerned, it's pretty extensive. And what I really like about it is that not everything is hostile. So it makes it feel more alive. And I mean, I'm sure if you got closer to some of the more passive enemies, they probably would be aggressive. But this isn't necessarily new, because I know in Fallout 4 they had the deer, the
deer.
I don't even remember what they were called.
The
rad stags.
That's rad stag.
And they were passive until you got too close. But for the most part, like everything else in the game wanted to hurt you.
Yeah.
And this game, it feels like there's a lot more creatures that are just there for you to enjoy appreciate what they are, and like make it feel like the planet's actually like this ecosystem that's alive that you just happen to be visiting. And I really appreciate that. One thing that really makes these games great is the attention to detail in things that don't necessarily need it, but it's there because the developers care enough to put it in there to make the world just that much more interesting. I really love that. And it just shows how much they care about it. And I've seen a lot of evidence of that in my time with the game so far, and I'm just super excited to get into more of it.
Yeah. The amount of detail that's there. The one thing you said about the non-hostile enemies that may become hostile if you get close. I think one detail they did that is they do like a warning call to surrounding similar species. Like, hey, we're in danger. And you saw the other day, Jacob, you got surrounded by like 20 of a dinosaur looking thing. And I like that because it's like, uh-oh, they're calling for backup because they feel threatened.
Yeah.
And the other day I had like a pack of these anteater looking things chasing me. They weren't dangerous, but there's like 10 of them. I'm like, oh my Lord. I think that's really interesting detail because, it's not just a bare bones enemy in the world just to be there. There's something working there that the AI has been programmed to, call other AI. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too. And speaking of just the AI and the enemies and creatures in this game, so obviously with Skyrim you had dragons, in Fallout you had Death Claws. In this game, I think it's going to be Terramorphs. It's going to be the primary thing that you're going to be wanting to look out for.
Oh,
and
Lord.
I have found one on a planet, actually one of the first planets you actually get to go to, one of the first moons. It killed me very quickly. And then Brantley, whenever you were obviously hanging out with us over the weekend, we saw that one in the quest that was more scripted, so it was a lot easier to take out. But if it had not been for that scripted sequence where you can activate these turrets and start shooting at it, it would have definitely killed me. There's no question if I had engaged it outside of that, I would have died. And I'm not sure if there is a museum in one of the main settlements that you can visit that has like this gigantic looking one it looks totally different than the ones I've seen so far in game. So if you can run into something like that, you're probably going to die. And I'm all for it because I love that kind of stuff. I love it whenever you run into enemies that are terrifying and you want to, avoid trying to be seen and to be detected so you can get out of there. But yeah, I'm actually looking for them. I'm going to each planet, like looking to see if I can find some terramorphs.
Jacob, when you were doing that mission, I was thinking in my house, like, Jacob's being so cautious. He can take this thing. Now I know why.
Yeah, no,
I
no,
was
no.
exploring a planet. And you know how some of the planets have like natural habitat areas you can look at? Like
Yeah,
explore that. I walked one and I'm just scanning stuff. And then I hear, I'm like, what is that here? Like, what the heck is that? I turn around. It's a level 14. I'm level 6. It's a level 14 Terramorph. And it is like jumping towards me. I'm like, oh my lord. I I hit on top of a rock that was in the natural habitat formation and just shot at it. But I learned something about them. They can shoot stuff at you. They spit like poison at you.
Yeah, they can.
So I was barely able to stay on that rock and kill it. And the whole time I was pooping my pants. And then I went down to another one. I found another one. I was like, oh, what's that? And I climbed to the top. And as I'm at the top, I start looking around and I see down down at the bottom, there's a Terramorph. It doesn't see me, but there's one walking around. I'm like, I'm not going to engage. I'm just going to get out of here.
Very light spoilers. They are terrifying and very light spoilers here. I do apologize, but I just want to mention this. The one that I encountered on the moon, and I don't know if all of them can do this, but it screeched at me when I was hiding from it. It got below me. I was not very high up. I just found some kind of like little satellite thing that I jumped on. It started screeching at me, and it started I like losing health. I started immediately taking damage. So I don't know if that's just something that it could do, like a specific variant of it, but I wasn't near it. It didn't shoot poison, even though it did eventually, but not in that moment. It just had this really cool but terrifying like screeching thing that it did, and then I started taking a ton of damage. It almost killed me just doing that. So,
well, let me ask you, what are they? Because you said I would read about them in a story. I never saw anything about them.
it's some sort of, and again, this is spoiler, but you're going to read about it if you boot up the game for 30 minutes. You should be able to read all of this.
Unless you're me.
In that first area, Brent, where you're going through on the moon to kill the captain of that Crimson Fleet.
Yeah.
That whole facility that you go through was a research facility for the Terramorphs, where they were developed.
So they're developed things.
It was a top secret, like military operation. And you can find in that laboratory, you can find different like terminals and voice memos that were left behind of the scientists whenever they realized that they had created something they can't control. And then the Terramorph sort of broke out, and there's audio clips that you can find of like, you can hear the Terramorphs in the background, like killing some of the scientists.
I did hear that. Yeah. I didn't read all that stuff, but I do remember, listen to those audio clips, and they're like, oh, that's Skype.
Yeah.
I was like, that must be the Terramorph.
And there's more terminals that are like head project scientists that you can read like their progress on their development. Yeah. And that was really cool. I love stuff like that. So like as soon as I started the game, it's literally like one of the first things you do. It was right there, and I was reading like, you want to play the game, but I was too busy like enjoying like, oh my God, they're going to get, it's like a, not the most original story. I mean, we've seen that before in other games, but it's just a really cool, I don't know. They just did it really well, I think, overall.
Yeah, those things, like you said, are terrifying, Jacob.
But that's just one. But yeah, I mean, like we were saying, that's just one small point to make, and we've rambled on about that for like 12 minutes. But that just gives you a picture as to how much fun this game is. And Brantley, you were talking about the side content and the characters and the missions. It's really good. I mean, it's really solid stuff, and I really do enjoy meeting new characters. There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
And each one of them feels unique and different so far that it's just like, the voice acting is top notch, as you would expect. Even like the character models look great to me, and their animations feel genuine and unique. I just feels it feels different. It feels so much more. I don't know how to describe it, but Fallout 4, it was you could see 3 or 4 people walking around the city square, and they looked the exact same. Whereas in this game, I just feel like the character models have been thought out so much more differently and much more methodically, and it just
And
feels like an actual world that you're just partaking in. I don't know how else to describe it.
and they have fat characters.
Yeah, they do. I
That's
was
on the
thinking
move.
that, and I was thinking, are there like short and tall people too? But I think they're all about the same size, unfortunately. But like, you don't think about that in games, but that's true. Like everybody in previous, in most of the games that we play are just like the same height. It's the same, body type and everything. But no, there's like really fat people walking around in this game. And I'm like, hey, this is great. This is awesome.
Well, with and one last comparison to No Man's Sky. Yes, it doesn't have the same in terms of exploring space that No Man's Sky has, but that doesn't bother me. So there's that.
No, I mean, like the exploration isn't. It's not going to compare to a No Man's Sky. But it does feel very Bethesda.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that's that's fine for me. I think there are a lot of people who have a negative opinion on the game are going into it thinking it is going to be more like an Elite Dangerous meets No Man's Sky meets you know um, Mass
Skyrim.
Effect kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it feels very much like a Bethesda spin on a space style exploration game, and
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I really do. Of course, I'm a little biased, obviously, because Skyrim is probably my favorite game of all time, and I've
Well,
put so much
that's
time into
pump
that game.
brakes.
So
It's a good game. I don't know about no favorite game of all time.
I've been pretty consistent on that, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's definitely top 10.
I
But,
would probably say just how much time I've spent in it and how much time I've enjoyed it. It's probably what I would answer that question with. But
yeah. Well, that leaves the question, Jacob. Is it game of the year?
I would answer that with an unsatisfactory to be determined. I don't know yet.
Is it going to be your game of the year?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
But you know what I will say to that question is the fact that it's even being considered and the fact that I've had so much fun with the game up to this point and I'm over 20 hours in so far
Yeah.
is a great sign. I mean, it's not like, and performance wise, I really haven't had any hiccups at all. Like nothing that's been game breaking or anything like that. It's nothing like a cyberpunk situation. Nothing
Yeah.
even close to that. The game looks great. It runs really, really well, at least in my experience. Now, I have seen clips on Reddit where somebody was taking off, Brant, and like it was just a cockpit that went up into the air. Like the rest of the ship
I'm
was
saying that. Yeah.
on the ground. Like I have seen stuff like that, but I haven't experienced anything like that. And even in those situations, that's just a quick reload the save kind of situation. So I would say to be determined. It looks pretty promising. I don't know because right now I would like I mentioned before that Diablo 4 was probably the game I enjoyed the most so far this year. Tears of the Kingdom being a very, very close second. So don't know if it's going to usurp those two, but it's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah. For me, it could be, but I'm also throwing in Armored Core 6 in the
Okay.
running.
Okay.
Diablo 4 has dropped out of the running for me. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I loved it when it first came out. I just what did it for me is I didn't want to make a new character and play through the whole thing again and rebuild my whole thing again.
Yeah.
I know people will argue, well, that's the whole point of those games. Like, okay, but I just put all this time and then all these nerfs and patches, new seasons come out, and now I don't have an urge to play it. So for me, it's dropped out of the running. Tears of the Kingdom, I think it's a fantastic game. It's definitely at least a 9 out of 10 for me, maybe a 10. Story wise, and side mission wise, it hasn't gripped me. Now, there's a lot of things to do on the side per se. Like I could spend hours just exploring in that game, and that really gives it a leg up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And it's smooth. It looks good. A great game.
Fantastic.
But for me, I don't think it will be Tears or a game of the year for me. I think for me, it's going to come down between Armor Core 6 and out. Excuse me, Starfield. I know you haven't played Armor Core 6 yet, Jacob,
Mm-hmm.
but you have the game. Uh, it is just a blast to do. I mean, building the mechs, it's like I'm watching Gundam, but I'm playing Gundam. The combat is fun. The story, I mean, it's there. It's kind of like any game nowadays. The story's there.
Yeah.
I don't have any issues with it per se, but it's a blast. It's really good. The combat is so fun and so smooth and entertaining. And like just building different mechs, making different builds, and you can do it in a split second. If you don't like this, you can come out of the mission and rebuild your mech or armor core, as it's called, to make it how you want it to be. And I love that. That is a blast. One of the best things about that game for me is building this new armor core, testing it out, see how well it does, and then re-evaluating it to see what I can change on it, and then going back on that same mission to see if I can do it even quicker, even more efficiently, and all that. And for me, it's really given me a lot of praise for that game because it's so fun.
no idea. But that's like the number one thing that I've been like kind of annoyed by.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is Skyrim level AI, so maybe slightly worse. I think one issue though is the sneaking part. The sneaking doesn't feel like it does anything in this game.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like the first rank is just garbage.
The second rank is garbage. Jacob, I found a helmet last night that had the chameleon perk on it,
Yeah.
and I'm invisible, literally invisible. And they're like, "I see you." I'm like, "How? How do you see me?"
And this is just a classic case of overcorrection, I think, because in Skyrim, Sneak was just so broken. It was so unbelievably powerful. And even in Fallout, like once you got Sneak 3, if your agility was like 5 or 6 at minimum, you could clear whole buildings without anybody ever seeing you. And so I think they were just really trying to dial that back.
Yeah,
Where like not every, because in the past it felt like if you're playing Skyrim, the meme was everybody just becomes a sneak archer eventually,
yeah,
because that's without question the best way to play the game if you want to be proficient in combat, because it's just you could take out the strongest enemies in the game with one
one to
arrow.
two. Yeah,
Yeah, without even really no stress whatsoever. So I think they were just, we're not going to have our characters relying on sneak in this game. And we're not going to have the players who don't want to play that play style feel like they're missing out because they're not playing this broken sneak build.
yeah.
So I think
I agree.
that's definitely the message here. And that's fine by me. That's fine. Brantley and I are just classic conditioned Bethesda players who want to sneak and kill things.
Yeah. Well, actually, Jacob, I'm role playing. I'm trying to be like a Navy SEAL here. So,
Oh, okay. Well, then in that case, then Bethesda just said, "Screw you. You're gonna have to be. You have to be more of a Marine."
well, I guess. Yeah, well, I've had to because sneaking doesn't work.
Yeah, it just does not work.
Well, I want to give what I think will be game of the year, not based on what I want to be, but what I think. I think ultimately at the end of the year, game of the year will be Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes,
And
I agree.
I think that because it is a great game. It really is. But I also would like to talk about what our friend we've had on the show, Josh, has said in the past. It's only getting great praise because it's Zelda. I
I
don't,
disagree.
I don't, I don't disagree. I think it's a great game, but I feel like ever since it came out, it's been a wrap that that's going to be game of the year because its name is Zelda. And Starfield, I thought would be the game that would come in and for me, it has done that. Come in and just blow my socks off. It has done that. I will say that. But when it's getting reviews like sevens from the mainstream reviewers, then its game of the year chances they're not there. It's not going to get it, and I think Zelda is going to get it because it does have all that hype. So
I just don't necessarily think it's because it's Zelda, though. I think it's because when Breath of the Wild came out, it truly was. I know you and Josh push back on this, but the gaming community at large felt
Nintendo
like this
community,
game, well, not even the Nintendo community. I mean, there are people that like Asmongold, for example, who mainly play MMOs and these other, mainstream titles that are not Nintendo titles, saw how amazing the game was, because it truly was groundbreaking. Just everything about the open world and the exploration, you could argue about it. I mean, but at the time, whenever it was released, people were
Skyrim had
having
more
a
open world and
great time.
exploration than that game.
I don't necessarily disagree. Like I said, I love Skyrim. It's one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game. But I'm just telling you how the people of how the gaming community responded to this game. Okay.
It was a good first game for the Switch. I will say that.
Well, sure. But then you already have a game that was praised so much in Breath of the Wild. Now the sequel to it, how could it possibly live up to the hype? It's exactly the same thing with Halo, Combat Evolved, and Halo 2. How could this possibly be anything like what we already know and love so much? And not only did it deliver on the expectations that you had that it would keep the same formula intact, it expanded upon it in ways that we didn't really think were possible. And not only that, it took what Breath of the Wild did and it brought it to such a different level that now I mean, unless they can top it off with like a Halo 3, which I know you're not a big fan of, but if they can't,
They want to go downhill?
all right, you're a piece of junk. But if they can do that, then we're looking at one of the best trilogies in modern gaming. And I don't disagree with that at all. I think Tears of the Kingdom is top notch,
Jacob,
S tier game. But I can recognize that and also recognize that a game like that, to my taste, will fall off more quickly than, say, like a Starfield, where the masses may not like it as much, but I do because it caters to what I love in gaming more so than like Tears of the Kingdom. Even though I do enjoy Tears of the Kingdom immensely, it doesn't have the same deep level of like RPG that I really love that a Starfield can offer me. So I can like two things can be true at once, Brant, as our famous podcast host that we always reference on the show talks about.
You can have your opinion, and it could be crap. No, I'm kidding.
That's very true. I can. But I'm just saying that, like, Tears of the Kingdom, if it won Game of the Year, it wouldn't surprise me and it wouldn't disappoint me because it's not like it's not deserving of the award.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying. I felt like it's had the win ever since it came out just because it's Tears of the Kingdom.
I think it's because of the before-mentioned reasons where it surpassed what Breath of the Wild has done.
But Breath of the Wild wasn't even my Game of the Year.
No, it wasn't.
Mario Odyssey was better.
Which, speaking of that real quick, I don't think there's ever a world where Super Mario Wonder wins Game of the Year. And I'm not a huge fan of 2D platformers, but that game just had a preview session where some members of the media got to go hands-on. I am very excited about this game. And again, I'm not a big 2D Mario platformer type person. I love Donkey Kong Country a lot, but those are totally different, in terms of style and difficulty. But this game looks very, very interesting. And I'm not necessarily saying it would ever contend for Game of the Year, but I'm very excited about it.
Well, I haven't looked into it.
I'm very, very intrigued by what I've seen so far.
Well, here's a question, though, Jacob. If that game comes out and blows your socks off, is this the best year in gaming?
Oh, I've already said that it is.
I think I did as well, and I will confirm that.
Yeah, 100%. Even if, like, Super Mario RPG and Super Mario Wonder are bad, this is already the best year in gaming.
It has been an incredible year.
I mean, we haven't even talked about games like Pikmin 4. I haven't even played it yet, but I know it's great. I've seen people talking about it. I've watched reviews. It looks amazing. Yeah. I haven't even been able to play that yet. Armored Core 6, I haven't been able to play that yet either. Like, it's been an amazing year for gaming. Truly it has. And this is, in my lifetime, the best year I've ever experienced.
Yeah. I was just looking up Starfield reviews of Metacritic. First thing that came up was an article saying that Starfield is being review bombed on Metacritic.
Review bombed?
Yeah. Meaning people go on there intentionally giving it bad reviews, so it bombs.
Yeah, look, that's unfortunate. And I think to your point, though, it is unfortunate that a game like Starfield doesn't feel like it's getting a fair evaluation for Game of the Year because Tears of the Kingdom came out in the same year. And I understand that's what you're trying to say, and I get it. Because it does kind of feel that way at times. But
well, usually review bombs are reviews from people who have not actually played the game. And you can tell they haven't played the game.
Right.
And one time Josh and I actually went through some reviews for Tears of the Kingdom. And people were giving it perfect reviews. And then we went and looked at the other reviews they did. And they would go to like Xbox and PlayStation only games and just give it terrible. It's an awful game.
Well, let me just say this just to clarify the points that I've made so everybody understands what I'm trying to say whenever it relates to Tears of the Kingdom. I have no doubt, as with many franchises and many different games, that there are fanboys of Zelda who will defend it to their dying breath, even if it was absolutely garbage. But then I think that there are a good portion of the community who have not only played the game, but have beaten the game, and their love and affection for that game is completely genuine. and their thoughts of it being game of the year are completely wholesome. I do think that makes up the majority, not the trolls and the fanboys. Although there are definitely quite a bit out there, to be
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I'll say this: people that go to Metacritic from users to look at what it gets score wise, I trust it as much as the what they call journalist reviews on them, because a
Hmm.
lot of people are, and for a lot of games, Tears of the Kingdom, Starfield, Diablo, Armor Core, all these great games I think are great, you think are great, that we mentioned. The user scores, there's people just making bad reviews intentionally. And that's
Yeah,
not to say there's not bad stuff in both all these games, but if you see a game that it's just nothing but negative reviews, and you see gameplay over, you're like, why is he getting review bomb or bad reviews? It's usually because trolls out there or people who can't play it because they don't have the system for it are just bombing it, just to bomb it because they don't want to see it succeed. Why? I don't know. So if you go to Tears of the Kingdom, you see, oh, it's got bad Metacritic scores from users, don't listen to it. It's a good game. Same thing with Armor Core, same thing with Starfield. Don't listen to those reviews, try it yourself, and then determine.
and I think on that point, going into the Starfield as completely blind like I did was it was by far and away the right decision. And I still haven't looked up the first review for it. I don't really care. My experience with the game is very, very, very positive so far, and I don't want any other influence to kind of have that say in my opinion.
Yeah, the only review, I haven't even watched a whole review. I just go to the scores. Like I've skipped to the end of review videos to see what they give it, just to see. So I hadn't heard anything about it other than what they gave the score.
Mm.
Uh, and of course, the one guy you and I trust a lot is ACG Gaming on
Yeah,
YouTube,
yeah, for sure.
and he said it's a buy. And I was like, well, I can trust his reviews. Oh, excuse me, because he hasn't led me astray yet. Knock on wood, but he hasn't yet. And so far, he said buy the game. That's all I heard from him. I didn't watch his review. I just heard buy the game. I was like, all right, and it's lived up to what I wanted.
Well, there are other people on YouTube who I trust who have put 100+ hours in the game and are still streaming it daily and love the game. So, like,
Yeah,
I haven't watched their review per se, but I know that's what they're playing. And you're not going to play a game like that if you don't love it. If you're not going to put 100 hours into a game you hate, like, it's almost impossible to do. You know,
yeah.
what I mean,
Star Ocean 5 was one of those games that, oh, I'm gonna try. I tried. I couldn't make it 2 hours.
yeah, like it's just not worth it. It's just totally not worth it. Games are played to relax and have a great time, and if you're not enjoying it, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
But anyway, awesome year for gamers. We've had a great time so far. I'm probably going to jump into more Starfield before kickoff.
I am too.
um,
I am too.
but yeah, a lot of great football games too. The only thing that would have made this year better, Brant, is if they announced like more Let's Go games for Pokemon or another mystery dungeon. That would have been like the icing on the cake. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, they didn't. But
I like it. Let's Go Gold and Silver.
yeah,
That'd be
I
fun.
was really hoping they would do it, but I don't think they're going to. But even that aside, it's still been the best year by far.
Or a Twilight Princess for Switch. But I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
It has been
yeah.
a
Twilight
fantastic
Princess,
year.
Wind Waker remaster.
I've had something to play every month.
I've had too much to play,
Well,
which
yeah,
is always a good problem.
yes, yeah. So
But
it's been good.
anyway, also, I don't know if we mentioned this on air, but you may have noticed last week and this week our webcam isn't operational because my webcam it's not working and I can't fix it. I've tried multiple different problem solutions and it just isn't working. So until further notice, we are going back to old school. Our old school days of just recording the audio, which is fine. I mean, that's what a podcast is traditionally anyway. So apologies for that. We will still be posting it to YouTube as we have been. So once we get the cameras back up and going, it'll probably be a little while before that happens, but we'll obviously make an announcement, let everybody know. So
Yeah, check out our YouTubes. I pull some great cars, and Jacob's
Yeah.
having trouble with his Nuzlocke. So I'm kidding.
No, if you saw my previous couple episodes, we've had a few hiccups here and there, but
You need to use that bronzer.
no, it's awful.
He
Did you
proved-
see the little meme I put in there? Where it
Yeah,
was like,
I didn't know
"You're-
it could get that skill.
You're horrible. It was so bad. It's one of the worst. I don't need to rant about that. But yeah, go check out our YouTubes. Brantley and I have been posting videos weekly. We've had a great time with it so far. I can't get to 10 subscribers because for some reason, whenever I get to 9, it just like deletes the subscriber. So can someone please like go to my YouTube and subscribe? Or 2 people. I need 2 people to do that, please. So I can
And
get
I
to 10.
can't get to 20, so someone help me out.
Yeah, go help us out. We much appreciated. Much appreciated.
So those subscriptions of fate. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Don't completely forget about this podcast. Subscribing to that. Go to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now we appreciate all the support as always. We've gotten a ton of it. Everybody seemed to really enjoy our episode last week, so we're very grateful for that. And we've got a slew of episodes coming up that we're super excited about. So stay tuned for that. Brantley, do you have anything else you want to add?
This big yawn.
Yeah. Other than that big yawn.
No, thanks everybody for all the support. War Eagle, Roll Tide to all my Bama Auburn fans out there.
Yes.
And
yes.
as we used to say back in Battlefield days, let's get it, lethal. And,
Yeah. With that all said, everybody, we're going to go blast off and play some more Starfield, but we will catch you all in the next one.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the In Our Humble Opinion podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you have any comments on today's episode, or if you'd like to suggest topics for future episodes, connect with your hosts at humilitypodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.